Zoom.
Showed up one people.
Harvey just wanted to see if we
Yeah, it's not, other people too. I actually had somebody come up to me on a Shabbos and say, he says, you know, I listen to you, the daf with you every day since it's recorded. Okay, he goes to an exercise class in the morning at the clubhouse. And then in the afternoon, he does the daf. And that's how he does it. But that's how he chooses to spend his, his time.
Everyone has their own.
Okay, I never expected.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I've listened to the Zooms also. The recordings.
All right,
I've not been around here and have not been available. I've
yeah.
gone to the recording.
All right, let me run down and check again on what.
Are you actually cooking Aliyah yesterday?
Wednesday afternoon, we finished the Gemara. We would start Chagiga, but we would not do the whole daf. And then we'll catch up. That would be my suggestion. Did you look at the Gemara? It's literally 6 lines. The Thursday.
I'll come back on the 52.
Or if you like, I'll get up early. I'll go to the bagel store. I'll bring you guys cookies.
No cookies?
Oh, you're not gonna be with us Thursday morning? They said that's Friday. Okay, so then fine. So then, let's see what 10. Here's the language.
I have to buy 20 packs of cookies.
Somebody just move the current bulletin with them. Anyone?
You want me to go down and get?
I just went down.
What are you looking for?
I don't have the old one either.
Yeah, but what do you want?
I
He wants to
wanted
know who's
the name, the
sponsor.
sponsors.
Oh.
Did you look outside?
No, I didn't go outside.
You want me to go
What?
down?
I have one. I'll get.
You have it, or Zev has it. Thank you.
Zeb.
Okay,
Zeb saves the day.
all right. Yeah, no, I thought I had put one with my,
That's why his head was asleep.
So let's first
Yes,
talk
thank
about
you.
the seal.
okay.
Kenny, do you mind if it's Wednesday?
It's not a problem for me.
I think that's a good idea.
All right, so we'll do it
Have it right
Wednesday.
here.
We'll verify it today.
I'm not available Wednesday, all right.
You're not available?
And so how about Thursday morning? I'll pick up bagels and lock.
Not available.
Yours is not available. All right.
Thursday, okay,
My wife takes out the stitches. So what do you want?
okay. All right, so the choice is between Wednesday afternoon, okay, and that means going out, or Thursday morning and having it here,
Or Thursday afternoon. and
or
go.
Thursday
But
having,
that means we learn nothing basically Thursday morning.
well,
Because the whole Gemara is 7 lines.
yeah, no, I see that.
What about Friday morning?
Friday morning,
Friday
it's,
morning's the-
it's very difficult there of Shabbos to have the siyum then. Okay,
Sunday morning.
that's putting it off a little bit far. All right, so people get back to, I'm not, since I haven't looked and haven't figured out the preparation yet, okay, I'm flexible either way, for either Wednesday afternoon or for Thursday morning
Thursday afternoon.
On Thursday afternoon.
or Thursday afternoon.
All right, we'll announce it
All right,
tomorrow.
Zev had it. Thank you. Thank you.
So is there a sense of consensus? People prefer Thursday?
Thursday works.
Okay, so we'll stick to Thursday afternoon.
All right.
Sounds good.
So it'll be like a lunch.
Thursday afternoon.
You wanna make it a lunch as a-
What about, yeah, let's see if they'll take us at 12. Can people come at 12 on Thursday?
I don't know, because he's not gonna do early.
It's too early?
No, he'll do it, he opens
go
up
to
early
bagels.
for us.
No, there's
That's
a,
all.
No, but
There's a
so,
lunch and learn here.
no,
Oh,
Thursday is a lunch
okay,
and learn.
so
That's the
we'll do
problem.
it normal 4 o'clock Thursday.
sounds good.
Okay. Okay, learning sponsors, Suanandi Garlic in memory of Malka Perlman and Philip Mann. Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henya Rivka Pro Rosna bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch. In memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim. Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Sharon and Fred Liska, their family and many friends. In memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Edelbus Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents. Harry and Marjorie Sedell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon and Martha Gitler, Sharna Bat Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova Bat Yisrael Dove in her memory. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim. Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bat Asher. Friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Asna Bat Yitzchak Aron. Many friends of Stephen Vigder, Zecher Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha. A month of learning by Stanley Presser in memory of his mother-in-law, Golda Bas Leber, his mother, Leah Bas Yehuda, his wife, Ruchel Mincha Bas Moshe. Carol and Josh Sanborn in memory of her father, Yoshua Shia ben Moshe Yehuda HaKohen. David and Sharon Carpel in memory of his father, Zev Moshe ben Shlomo Yaakov. Bee Pizer in memory of her mother, Razel Bat Shammai. The children of Grace and Julius Rosenzweig, Barbara Rottenberg, Ann Beres and Judy Friedman, and Alan Rosenzweig, in honor of Roz Greenberg Haskell's special birthday. Malin Haran Haller in memory of his mother, Frege Bas Yaakov. Bee Pizer again in memory of her stepfather, Avram Michal ben Shmuel Halevi. A week of learning by Judy Schiff in memory of her mother, Chaya Chava Bas Menachem Mendel. By Tema Harrisburg in memory of her husband, Suriel ben Rachmiel Halevi. Sharon and Jerry Ness in honor of Roz Greenberg Haskell's special birthday. Okay, and that was, today is the 5th, right? 6th. Okay, so yesterday was Sydney and Sandy Goldschmidt in memory, a day of learning in memory of his father. Today is the 6th, Mel Grossman in memory of his brother, David ben Menachem Manish. Sandy and Barbara Cohen, in memory of his brother, Chaim Shalom Aryeh ben Eliyahu HaKohen. That's it. May the Shemas have an aliyah, crank Rafiel, Velti Shir Shem Atzliah, Kol B'nai Israel, a good Gaben Shtia. Okay, thank you, Zev, for coming to the rest. Okay, Gemara today. Okay, I just want to quickly review the Mishnah. Okay, so that we can. The Mishnah says on the bottom, right next to the last line, okay, of Kaf Dalet Amud Beis. Okay, Ein Korin, we do not tear the garment. Others translate it as revealing the shoulder.
It says that next.
Okay, Ein Chotzin. All right, that's what Velo Chotzin, and we don't, okay, bear the shoulder. Ve'ein mavrin, we don't provide a meal of condolence. Ela krovav shel meit, okay, except for the krovim, the direct relatives of the deceased. Ve'ein mavarin ela al mita zekufa, and we don't provide meal for those except for the ones who, okay, turn over the bed. All right, so the Gemara now, as we go through a lot of Gemara, all right, we'll see what it says. All right, so I'm going to present the concept first, and then we'll go into the text. For whom then does this Mishnah apply? Under what circumstances does it apply? That's what the Gemara wants to clarify. Okay, it's going to suggest a number of scenarios, okay, and argue them, and then as a result of the discussion, put them aside, and then pick up another scenario and say, maybe in this situation, discuss that, reject that, and then continue to go on. Okay, so we have a sense of what the flow of the Amud is going to be. Okay, so it starts off then, Va'afilu chacham, what about if it's a situation of the sage? Right, Vahatanya, we taught in the Braita, Chacham shemet hakol kravav. When a sage dies, all are considered his relatives. Hakol kravav salkadatra. Do you really think all of the relatives? Ella, rather, hakol krovav. Okay, namely, when we say all that kikrovav is what we're saying. It's as if they are like his relatives. Okay, what do they have to do? Hakol korin alav, all need to tear. Vakol chotzin alav, and all need to bear a shoulder. Vakol mavrin alav berchava, and all participate in a meal of condolence in the plaza, in the area out, right? The community area. Lo tzricha delav chachamhu. Therefore, we might argue that our Mishnah was only necessary in the case of the chacham, all right? But not the chacham. Maybe that doesn't apply then if we say everybody has to do these things. So let's come now to the next possibility. V'i adam kasherhu. Maybe it's a person of integrity. Okay. Chiyuv v'mechayiv l'mikra. Okay. That under certain circumstances, one has an obligation to perform kriya. The Tanya, as we learn as follows. Under what reason might it be that the children of a person die when they are young? In order so that he would cry and mourn for a person of integrity. Okay, I had a difficulty with this piece of Gemara. Okay, in 1 second, and then I'm going to have you share. Okay, so the Gemara says, Yivkeh v'yitabel, that he should cry and mourn. All right, Arvona kasha kilmine. Are we saying that these children are a security for him? And here's where I'd like Michael. All right, Michael, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Ela mipnei shelo bacha v'hitabel al adam kasher. Because why? Because he did not cry and mourn on a person of integrity.
Read one more sentence.
Okay? Shakol haboche umetabel al adam kasher mochlin lo al kol avonotav b'shvil kavod she'asalo. Why? Because one who cries and mourns on a person of integrity, I'm going to rephrase it, his sins are forgiven or gain atonement because of the honor that he delegated to such a person.
It becomes mida keneged mida. There is several other places in Shas. It says that the demise of children is a result of the sins of their parents. They can't be their own because they're pure. They don't have any mitzvahs. But so here, if you go to other people's funerals and if you show empathy for other people, the sins for which your children might have been caused to die are eliminated, and therefore your children have no problem. But
you're
if
talking about
you,
a child is always a child, even if they're 50 years old, they're still your child.
no, we're talking about up to 13 or
It
up
doesn't
to
say
12.
No,
It
that's
says
that-
minor children.
Katani, that's the
Says
implication.
Okay, yeah.
So, and as a matter of fact, the Gemara elsewhere in Sanhedrin says the closer to 13 the child is, the bigger the avera of the parent. But in any event, we don't want to get into that, but in any event, that it's purely mida keneged mida. If you do not express anguish at the death of a friend or a neighbor or a stage, then the sins that you've accrued are not taken away and your child is at risk. If you do express anguish at the death of others, that washes your slate clean and your children are not at risk.
And yet the
So it's pure mida keneged mida. So that's what's going on.
Yeah, that's why I have one of the reasons I have a problem. No, I'm not disagreeing with your shot. I'm just saying that doesn't necessarily
No, I
remove.
know it's problematic.
problem.
And we don't
Right.
recognize it, but
Right.
you also have to understand that if a person had 12 children in those days, he was lucky if 4 or 5 grew up.
Reach
So
the
they
doubt.
needed to have some kind of a theological explanation of why so many children died. Because you can't say it's their own averas because they have none.
Well,
So
now, I
you have to
understand that.
find- And everything is because we have averas. We get sick because we have averas. We die because we have averas. So they had to come up with a logical rationale for the death of so many children.
That could be. All right? Doesn't mean we don't have a problem with it.
No, I have
Right.
the same problem.
Okay, so let's go on. Delav Adam Kasherhu. Okay, so that's another. So we said
So that's
B'shvil
like-
Kavod Shesalo Delav Adam Kasher.
Maybe the Mishnah is a low life.
Okay. Dekai Hatam B'Shad Yitziat Neshama. So the Gemara now says, well, what about the possibility that the person is standing there when the individual dies? Okay, when he's present at the death of the person. Chiyuvi Mechayev, that he has an obligation then, okay, to do what we saw listed, the question of Kriya, bearing the shoulder, Sudas Havra, etc. Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, he says, Ha'omed al hamet b'shat yitziat neshama, one who is present at the death or at the time when the neshama leaves, chayav lekroa, has the obligation to tear. Lama zed omer, what is that compared to? Okay. L'sefer Torah shenisraf shechayav lekroa. It's compared likewise to a situation where a Torah scroll becomes burnt, and we also need to be active, availus in that regard as well.
Is that applied to a first responder, a medical professional who's always at that person?
Yeah,
So that means that they may be rending themselves every week.
Continuously. Yeah. Okay,
that's
Delo,
why they have scrub.
right, Delo kai hatam b'sha'at yetziat neshama. If that's the case, maybe it doesn't apply there to a situation when the neshama leaves the body. Okay, so let's try another possibility. Mekinach nafshe derav safra. Okay, as we continue now in the Gemara, we're going to get into a long breita. Okay, a series of breitas, but dealing with number one, a situation of a death and how that was dealt with. And then we're going to get into a series of discussions on eulogies. Okay? All right, so what happens? So the Gemara continues. Kinach nafshe de Rav Safra, lo karu Rabbanan alei. When Rav Safra died, when his neshama left, you said you're theoretically supposed to do kriya at that point if you're present. Okay, so what happens? Okay, when Rav Safra died, lo karu Rabbanan alei. The rabbis did not do kriya. Okay, not, of course, we're not saying all of them didn't, but some. Amrei, and they said, lo gamrinan mine. Their argument with those that did not do kriya was that they did not, his students. Okay, Amar laho Abaye, and Abaye says them, mi Tanya. Okay, harav shemay, did it teach? I'm going to translate Rav here as the teacher, the one who was your direct teacher. Is that what we're talking about? Chacham shemay Tanya. It teaches that if a sage dies, okay, that's what it was teaches. Va'od, and furthermore, kol yoma ma'atate befumin bebei midrasha savure ma. Okay, and namely that so long as his lessons are brought up, in other words, in the base midrash, they say Rabbi so and so said, okay, or if there's a discussion, somebody brings a shaila that he raised or whatever. So long as his name is still and his lessons are still learning from, you're still there for learning from him. Okay? So the Gemara continues, Ma dahava hava. Some of them thought what was. Okay, that therefore they don't have. Okay, can't do it at this point. Amar leho Abai, says Abai Tnina. We learned this. Chacham. Kozman she'oskin behesped chayavin lekro. So long as the fact that they are involved in sharing a eulogy, okay, then one has the obligation to tear. Okay, so they thought savur the mikrei la'alter. So some of them who had not torn before thought to tear their garment immediately. Abai corrects them. Amar laho Abai, he says Tanya, but we learn also Chacham kvodo behespedo. Okay, that it is the recitation of the hesped that brings us into a more direct relation to the sage that passed away. Okay, remember we had a Gemara that said that really you should tear it at the more intensive time period. Okay, that was right. And so therefore, when the hesped gets started, that's when they should tear their garment. That's Abai's message. Okay, now we go on again. Kinach nafshe de Rav Huna. And here we're going to get a long breita, clarifying what happened at Rav Huna's death and about his burial. Kinach nafshe de Rav Huna. When Rav Huna passed away, savur le'otuve sefer Torah apuria. They thought to place a Torah scroll on the bier. Okay, what happens? Amar laho Rav Chisda, and Rav Chisda responded, Milta de bechaye lo savirale, a situation, a thing that during his life it wasn't in agreement with. Okay, he did not hold by that. Hashta likum le liabed le. Now we're going to go ahead and do it. If he didn't like it during his lifetime, we're going to do it now. Da'amar Rav Tachlifa, as was said by Rav Tachlifa, Ana chazite the Rav Huna, the Baila Meitev Apuria. I personally, he said, saw Rav Huna at one time wanted to sit on a bed. Vahava manach Sefer Torah alei. And there was a Sefer Torah resting on this bed, let's call it for the moment. V'chaf kada a'ara, and he took a large urn or something and turned it over, jug, turned it over onto the ground. Va'otiv Sefer Torah iluve, and he put the Sefer Torah on that jug. Okay,
And then sat.
right? Then he was able to sit on the bed. Alma kasavar asur le'shev al gabe mita shesefer Torah munachale, and therefore this clearly tells us, shows us that he felt it was prohibited to sit on the bed when the Sefer Torah was on. Okay, so what happens? Further story. Okay, so we now have right, Rav Huna on this funeral bier, and we're now told lo hava nafik puria mi baba. Okay, they could not bring the funeral bier through the doorway, okay, of the house. Savur l'shal shule derech gagan, and then they thought to lower it through the window, the skylight that was on the roof. Okay, Amar laho Rav Chisda, and Rav Chisda says, "Ha garmina mine." This I learned from him. Chacham kvodo derech petach. That respect for the sage means bringing the beer through a doorway. Okay, savur leishnuye mi puria lepuria. Then they thought to change from one larger beer to a smaller beer to be able to get it through.
On the outside
Okay,
door.
right? Amar laho, he said to them, Rav Chisda, Hachi gamer namine. Here too I learned this from him. Chacham kvodo b'mita rishona. That the showing respect is to leave the body on the first beer, the first gurney, whatever we call it. The Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav in the name of Rav, Minayin lechacham shekvodo b'mita rishona. How do we know? He says that showing this respect is moving the body on the first gurney, the first funeral bier. Shnei Amar, as it says, Vayakivu et Aron, right? Nevunim el ha'agalah chadasha. Okay, that they moved it, okay, on a new way. Okay, so what did they do? Pros baba vafkua. They broke through the door and they took it out. Okay, now, so now they're getting to do the funeral, I'm assuming either in the courtyard or in the public square. Okay, so they're continuing. Patachale Rabbi Abba. And Rabbi Abba was the one to give the first eulogy. All right? Ru'ui haya Rabbeinu shetishra alav shchina, that our teacher, our sage, okay, was worthy of having the shchina descend on him. Elish Bavel Garmale. But his being in Babylonia prevented that from happening. It's challenged. Meitiv Rav Nachman Bar Chisda. And Rav Nachman Bar Chisda cites the following. Va'amre la Rav Chanan Bar Chisda. And others say it was Rav Chanan Bar Chisda. Hayo haya devar Hashem el Yecheskel ben Buzi HaKohen be'eretz Kasti. That it occurred, I'm translating it, that the word of Hashem came to Yecheskel ben Buzi, okay, to the, right, in the land of the Kasdim. In other words, in Bavel. So the implication is you can't say that Shekhinah would not have come to him in Bavel if we already have an earlier example with Yechezkel that the Shekhinah came to him in Bavel. Okay, what happened, says the Gemara. Here we get a little shtoch.
It's beautiful.
Okay, happens. Tafach le avuha besamle. His father tapped, nudged him. In other words, he gave him a kick, okay, with his foot, with his sandal. Amarle, and he said to him, Lav amina lach, lo titrod alma. Okay, didn't I once tell you, don't bother the people with, use the expression klatzkashes? Okay.
The guy's giving a hesped and he interrupts.
All right. Okay. Right. What happens? Mai haya. What do we mean by when we said hayo haya? The double lashon. Shahaya kfar. That it already occurred. In other words, Yechezkel had an earlier divine prophecy in Eretz Yisrael. And then when it happened in Bavel, that was a later prophecy. Okay. Right? Ki askua lahatam. Okay, when he brought them there, Amrule the Rabbi Ami the Rabbi As. They brought the body to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, for burial. Right? Now, what happened? Here's another little story. Okay? Okay. It begins to tell us, by the way, what the egos of some of Chazal were. Okay?
They thought that he was still alive.
Yes, that's what's going to happen.
They didn't get a telegram.
Right? They didn't get the email, right? Okay, so what happens when they brought the body there, namely to Eretz Yisrael for burial? Okay, but not everybody had the knowledge that he had died. Amrule, they said to Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, Rav Huna ate, Rav Huna is coming. Amru, and they said, Ki havin and hatam, when we were there in Bavel, that's the reason, lo havalan ledaluye reshan mine. We weren't even able to lift up our heads. Okay, he was the Gadol Hador. We weren't even able to barely say anything. Hashta, atinin hacha, ata batrin. Now he's coming here after us. Okay, we're not going to have any opportunity. Okay, we're not going to have any opportunity to teach. Amrule, they said to him, Arono ba. It's his coffin that's coming. Okay, all right. Now, Rab Ami v'Rab Asi nafu. So then Rav Ami v'Rab Asi went out to pay an appropriate, right, to meet the funeral bier and to whether to walk with it or to do whatever was necessary. Okay, but the Gemara tells us Rabbi Ilah, the Rabbi Chanina, lo nafu. But the two of them did not go out. Ikada Amre, and there are those who say as follows: Rabbi Ilah nafak, that Rabbi Ilah did go out. Rabbi Chanina lo nafak, and Rabbi Chanina did not go out. So the Gemara wants to clarify. Dinafak mai tame, those that went out, what was the reason that, okay? The Tanya was taught, Aron abraita, Aron ha'over mimakom lemakom, a funeral procession, casket that's passing from one place to another, omdim alav b'shura, that we stand in line, v'omrim alav birkat avelim, v'tanchume avelim, and we recite the appropriate blessings that's normally said in their time at the funeral, and we also extend condolence. Delo nafak ma'itama, and those that did not go out, okay, why, what was their explanation? Why didn't they? The Tanya, why? Because they cite another Braita, right? And what does that Braita say? Aron ha'over mimakom l'makom. Again, a funeral bier procession that going from one place to another. Ein omdim alav b'shura. One doesn't stand to make a line, all right? Ve'ein omrim alav birkat avelim v'tanchumei avelim. And one doesn't recite those blessings and condolences. Kashin ha'adade. These brightest seem to contradict one another, right? Lo kasha. Maybe we can say there's no problem here. Kan sheshalado kayemet. In one case, we're talking, according to one translation, it was that the skeleton, okay,
It's
is
the whole
still
body.
there, okay? Another shot was that it was the spine and rib cage,
But it was
Okay.
the robe of the body.
okay? Kan b'she'ein shlado kayemet. And in another case, it's not the primary bone structure, okay? That's around.
No, they didn't know whether he was, from the way the story goes, he was brought directly to Israel. They did not temporarily inter.
Right,
him.
right. Okay,
So
so
the
what
crowd
happens?
that went out realized it was the first time he's going to be buried. And the people that didn't go out thought that this was just a reinterment.
Reinterment. Could
after
be.
the body
Could be.
decayed.
All right, so what happens? Rav Huna, okay, Shaldo Kayemet Hava. And the Gemara tells us in Rav Huna, the skeletal
He thought it was
structure,
the whole body.
okay, was there. Okay. Delo Nafat, those that didn't go out, Lo Saimu Hakame. They didn't get all the information. Okay, they didn't get the email. It wasn't confirmed for them. Amre, okay, so now the next phrase. If we're saying that the body was there, or if we're saying that for some reason there had been decay of the flesh and the bone structure was still there, it means they still need to bury him. So where are they going to bury him? Okay, he didn't have a chance to buy a plot in Eretz Yisrael beforehand, clearly. All right, so the question is now, what do they do? So let's see as the story of the Braita continues. Hechen ninche, where are they going to bury him? Rav Huna rivetz Torah b'Yisrael. We have a statement that Rav Huna, okay, was clearly a master teacher, Gadol Hador, okay, and he spread Torah throughout the nation. The Rabbi Chia rivetz Torah b'Yisrael Hava. Okay, and Rabbi Chia also was a well-known teacher, okay, who had died and had a crypt, okay, already in existence. Okay, so what happened? Man ma'ayele, who is going to bring him up? In other words, who is going to bring the, let's say, the Aron, the body of Rav Huna, into the crypt that could belong to Rabbi Chia? Okay, so what happened? So that was what was decided that they were going to do. Amar laho Rav Chaga, and so one of the sages, Rav Chaga, known in the Yerushalmi as Rav Chagai, okay, fairly well known, volunteers. On what basis should he have the merit, the Gemara wants us to understand, to do this? Because not just anybody does it, okay? So he says to them, Amar laho Rav Chaga, he says, Ana mailana le, I'll bring it in. Why? Okay, why? L'okmatei l'talmudai ki havine bar timne sare shanim v'lo chazi li keri. He says, because I, at least the pshat I saw, I finished my studies. In other words, I got smicha at age 18, primarily from Rav Huna, okay?
From Rav Chia.
Okay, could be. I saw it differently. Okay, all right. Why? And I was able to get it at age 18 because I never had a situation of being a balkin. Umash malay kame, and what? And I served him. I was also his shamash. Okay, V'yad ba'uvde, and I'm familiar with all the great deeds that he did. Okay, as for example, the yom echad it africha le ritzua de tefillin, as in the case of one time, one day, the strap of his tefillin got turned over inappropriately. Okay, in other words, it was not the black side, but it was the opposite side, right? Viyativ ala arba'in ta'amita. And as a result, for kapara, 40 times he fasted. Okay, so what happens? So Rav Chaga Aile, he brought it in. Okay, Havagane Yehuda Miyamina Da'avu. And the son of Rabbi Chia, Yehuda, was buried on his one side, the right side of his father. V'chizkiah, another son, Mismola, was buried, his bones, whatever was on the left side. Okay? Now, here's a little story. Amarle Yehuda lechizkiah. So the spirit of Yehuda says to the spirit of Chizkiah, Kum miduchte, get up from your niche, from your place. The love orach ara, the kaim Rav Huna, that it's not the right, not appropriate conduct, so that Rav Huna, his coffin shouldn't be standing up. Okay? Bahade de kaim, once the one got up, okay, what happened? Come bahade amuda denora. Then a pillar of fire actually came up along with him. All right? And what happened? Chazye Rav Chaga. Rav Chaga saw this pillar of fire. He bite and he became frightened. What did he do? Zakfe la'arone. Okay, he stood up the coffin, okay, and was behind it. All right? V'nafak. Okay, and he went out. Ata, he came out. Okay, in other words, he just left the Aron there standing because he was afraid of that pillar of fire. V'hai de lo inish anish mishum de zakfe la'arone de Rav Huna. And why wasn't he not punished? Because he burned, whatever. Okay, it was because he stood up the Aron of Rav Huna. Okay, so that's a little, it's one story. Now we go on to another story. Kinach nafshe de Rav Chisda, when Rav Chisda passed away. Savur la'otove sefer Torah apuria. They thought to place a Torah scroll on his funeral bier. Amar lahu Rav Yitzchak, and Rav Yitzchak says, Milta de la Rabbe lo savirale, a thing that the teacher, the master, did not hold by. Okay, this was Rav
Huna was his teacher, and
Rav Huna was
the
Rav
one
Chisda's
saying-
Rav Huna, his teacher.
Right.
Okay, did not hold by, right? Ana nikum na avedle. Shall we go ahead and do it? Savur de lo mishlal karaihu. And here they raised the question. They thought then that they should not mend or tack or sew up the garments that they had torn. Amar lahu Rabbi Yitzchak bar Ami. He said to them, Chacham, kevan shehichziru pneihem me'acharei hamita. Okay, these, right, we're saying a sage, once he turns his face away from the funeral bier, sholalin, that we can then mend it, sew it, tack it up, right? So that's the case. Kinach nafshe the Rabba Bar Huna, right? Or when Rav Huna Bar Huna, new story, when he passed away, the Rav Himnuna, and Rav Himnuna passed away at the same time. Okay, so what happens? So the two of them, their coffins are being brought, all right? Askinu lahatam, and they're moving their coffins, bringing it to Eretz Yisrael. What happens? Since we go on to the top of the next Amud, Kimatu Agishram, when they arrive at a bridge, Kamu Gamle, the camels that were carrying the coffins, both camels stopped. Okay. Amar laho hahu taya, and a certain Arab was there. Okay. And he saw this. Maihai, what's going on here? Says the rabbi. Says the Arab.
The rabbi to the Arab.
Okay.
Oh,
No, I thought it was the Arab to the rabbi. It's the Arab to the rabbi.
okay.
Okay. Amrule, they said to him, Rabbanan, the Ka'avde Yikara Ahadade. The rabbis are showing respect, honor one to another.
Either one wants
Okay.
to go first.
Mar Amar, Marne Oberesha. One master says, let this master go first. All right. Umar Amar Marne Oberesha. And the other master said, no, let this master go first. Okay. Amar. So now the Arab says, Dinahu, the Rabba Bar Huna li Uberesha. The law really should be that Rabba Bar Bahuna should go first. Why? Okay, because he, at least what I saw, was he's from a more distinguished family. Okay, what happened? Khalif Gamle de Rabba Bar Huna, the camel of Rabba Bar Huna went first. Okay, and as a result, Natur Keche Vishine Dahahutaya, that the molars and the teeth of that Arab fell out.
We needed a bridge.
Okay, that was his
Because
punishment.
of the mice of the bridge, we needed a bridge.
Right. Right, good. I'll give you 2/3 of a pun for that. You know what 2/3 of a pun is? To you, right? Okay. Patach alei hahu yanuka. Okay, now we have a situation where a child is going to give a eulogy. Okay, now this is going to show us a whole series on the daf of eulogies, and I want us to see to what degree the how flowery, if I can use that term, some of these eulogies actually are. That's not to say that they aren't appropriate, okay, but it is clearly a situation of, okay, and we're going to see that there are also professional eulogizers, okay, that are brought in as we continue on the Amud. Okay, so the Gemara now tells us, Patachale hahu yanuka. The following child began with this following eulogy. Gaza Yeshishim, Alami Bavel V'imo Sefer Milchamot. Okay, that what we're saying here is that the descendant of the ancient ones has come from Babylonia, and along with them, the one who fights wars. Okay, in other words, the wars of Torah, learning.
Safer.
Okay, going on then. Ka'at v'kipud uchpalu, the pelican and the bittern. Okay, two kinds of large birds. In other words, these are not small sages; these are major sages, right? Uchpalu, they have been doubled. Lirot b'shod v'shever haba mishinar. Come to see the destruction, the everything that's come from Shinar, from the land above. Katsaf al olamo, okay, v'chamas mimenu nafshot. Okay, it has shortened the cut on the world, and it seized these souls. V'samach bahem kikala chadasha. Okay, and the fact that these sacred souls are now coming, it is like one would welcome a new bride.
In heaven.
Okay, in heaven. Okay. Continuing, Rochev Aravot, the one who rides on clouds, okay, is an allusion to Hashem. Sas v'samach bebo elav nefesh nakiv v'tzadik, that are coming to him, these holy souls. Okay. New piece from the Gemara. Kinach nafshe de Ravina. When Ravina died, patach alehahu safdina. Then one of the following professional mourners, professional eulogizers, said as follows: Tmarim hiniu rosh al tzadik tamar. Okay, you tamar trees. Okay, date trees. Bow your heads. Okay, for this righteous one who'd like a palm. Nashim leilot kiyamim. Women. Okay, your evenings should be like days. Al masim leilot kiyamim. For the one who made his night like days in terms of his studying Torah. He turned his nights into days, basically. Okay, further, Amarle Rav Ashi lebar kipuk. And Rav Ashi said to one of the professional mourners named Bar Kipuk, Hahu Yoma Mayamart. On that day when Ravina would die, okay, what are you going to say? In other words, Amarle, he said to him, Amina, I would say as follows. Im ba'arazim nafla shel hevet. If among the cedars of Lebanon there has fallen a fire, ma ya'asu ezuvei kir. Okay, what's going to happen to the hyssop? Okay, Leviathan bechaka hu'ula. Leviathan, by means of a hook, is raised up. The cock, right? Maya asu de gera cock. Okay, what's going to happen to the small fish? Okay, benachal shotef nafla chaka. In a flowing stream, they have tossed, so to speak, a hook. Maya asu megabin. What's going to happen into
big river,
large flows of water? Okay. Now, it's okay. So what happened? So that was the remarks of one professional eulogizer. Okay, implying that Ravina was the ultimate, the Gadol Hador, the greatest scholar of the generation.
This is Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says, what are you going to say at my Levaya? And this is what he told
At Ravina's Levaya. Ravina's Levaya. Because we're going to see Rav Ashi is going to take affront at what was being said. Okay? Amarle ben Avi. And now this is another professional eulogizer. Chas v'sholom dechaka v'shal hevet b'tzadikei. B'tzadikei. Okay? God forbid that hooks and fire should be mentioned regarding the death of such a righteous person. I would say, others, right? Umaya Marta, and what would you say? Amina, I would say, this other second professional eulogizer, Bachola Avelim, Velo Aveda. Cry for the mourners and not for who's lost. Shehi lemenucha ve'eno la'anacha. Because he's gone to rest, and we, v'anu la'anacha, we still are
here
bereft, lost, have a loss. Now, Chalash da'ate alayhu, Rav Ashi was upset with these professional eulogizers. Okay? V'it apuch kara'ayhu, and what did he do? He gave them a look, or he said something that turned their feet inwards. Okay? Right. Hahu Yoma lo atu la aspaduye. That day on Ravina's funeral.
No, Rav Ashi died. They never,
Okay.
Those guys were excluded.
They didn't come to, all right? All right.
Because this was.
You say it's Rav
Yeah,
Ashi's?
Rav Ashi was saying, that was a beautiful husband. What are you going to say for me? And then he told him about the fish hooks.
Okay.
And so Rav Ashi says, I'm not interested in you being, and he made them crippled. so they didn't show up when Rav Ashi
Should
died.
they?
That's-
Could be. All right,
I think that's-
shot that I
Oh, when
had didn't
Ravina
give it
died.
that way.
No,
When
Ravina's
Ravashi-
finished.
Ravashi.
Ravina's now finished.
No.
All right, doesn't matter.
Vahainu da Amar Ravashi, and this is what Ravashi said: Lo bar kiputz chalitz, v'lo bar avin chalitz. Neither can bar kiputz nor bar avin ever perform chalitza, because the way their feet are twisted, they can never get their shoes off. That was the implication. Rava. Okay, so now we go on to a number of other stages and eulogies. Rava kihava atela diglat. Rava, when he came to the Tigris, Amarle lebar avin, he said to Bar Avin, Kum ema milta, come and say something. In other words, Rava was concerned about crossing the river and what would happen to him. Kai va'amar, he stood and said, Ba'u rov shlishit b'mayim. Okay, he says, come and right. Okay, he says, Ba'u rov shlishit b'mayim, come and majority. Okay,
A third of the Jewish people.
as if you are valued as if a third of the nation, okay, is coming crossing the water, okay. Zachor v'rachem, okay, remember and have mercy. Ta'inu me'acharayich, okay, right? They've strayed from behind you. Ki isha me'ba'ala, as a woman who has from her husband, okay. Al taznichuenu ki'ot meimara, right? And don't identify it like a sign of a woman that's supposed to have be a sota, okay. All right, so that's the point. Okay, now a mnemonic device: Chanin, Yochanan, Zera, Abba, Yaakov, Yossi, Shmuel, Chaya, Menachem, Siman. Say the mnemonic device is telling us the names of all these individuals about whom the Gemara is going to then tell further statements. Okay, Rabbi Chanin, Chatane de Benis Yahava. Rabbi Chanin was the, want to call him the son-in-law of the Nasi, right? And what happened? Lo kahavu le banei. He did not have any children. By Rachme, he prayed for mercy, right? Vahavu le, and he had a son, right? Hahu Yoma dahavale, and the day that he had him, Nach Nafshe, was the day he died. Okay? Patachale Hahu Safdana, and the eulogizer began the eulogy as follows: Simcha letuga nehefcha sason v'yagon midbaku. Okay, joy, okay, turned to sorrow and was changed. Happiness, okay, to sadness became joined, became attached. Be'et simchato ne'anach, at the time of his joy, he sighed, so to speak, he was unhappy. Be'et chaninato avad chanino. Okay, and again, that whole parallel, okay? Right, so
Nachi means
his glory became reduced, right? So what happens is the Gemara, Asiku le Chanan al Shmei. They therefore named the child after the deceased father. That's what happened. Going on now. Kinach nafshe de Rabbi Yochanan. Patach le Rabbi Yitzchak bar Elazar. So when Rabbi Yochanan died, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar began the following eulogy: Kasher hayom Yisrael, ki yom ba hashemesh b'tzaharayim. The day today is as difficult for the Jewish nation, the people, as the day that the sun appeared in the middle of the afternoon. Tichtiv, why? V'haya set in the afternoon. All right, as it was written, V'haya b'yom hahu v'hiveti hashemesh b'tzaharayim. Okay, and it occurred on that day that the sun was brought in the afternoon. In other words, it's set early. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. That was from Yoshua. Right, B'Shemesh B'Givon Dom. Okay, all right. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan says, Ze Yomo Shel Yoshiyahu. Okay, and he said that elsewhere that is the day of Josiah. In other words, when a righteous person dies, there is a physical impact in the world. Okay, Kinach Nafshe de Rabbi Yochanan, when Rabbi Yochanan died, Yativ Rabbi Ami Shiva Ushloshim. Rabbi Ami sat Shiva and the 30 days as well. Amar Rabbi Abba, Berei de Rabbi Chia bar Abba, and his colleague Rabbi Abba, the son of Rabbi Chia bar Abba, said to him, Rabbi Amar, Rabbi himself said, the Avad, okay, what happened? Legarme hu da Avad. He did it on his own. In other words, that's why he did it. In other words, his choice of sitting Shiva and Shloshim was his own decision.
Nobody else does.
Okay. Dahachi amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba amar Rabbi Yochanan. Why? Because Rabbi Chia bar Abba said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Afilu Rabbo shilimdo chachma eino yoshev alav ela yom echad. That even his teacher, I'm going to say from whom he learned his primary wisdom, okay, one only sits a single day.
And that's actually correct in Shulchan Aruch.
Right. Now, going on, Kinach Nafshe de Rav Zera, when Rav Zera passed away, Patach alei hahu safdana. Again, the professional eulogizer said, Eretz Shinar hara v'yalda, the land of Babylonia, okay, was pregnant and gave birth with him. Eretz Tzvi gidla sha'ashuea. But the land of Eretz Yisrael is where he grew and developed his plaything. In other words, that's where he really developed, learned, etc. Oina la, okay, amra rakat ki avda kli chemdata. Woe is Rakat, okay, which was a name for Tiberius, okay, because it's lost its beloved object. That's where he was found. Kinach nafshe de Rabbi Abahu. When Rabbi Abahu passed away, okay, what happened? Achitu amude de kazare maya. I'm going to translate this as there ran tears, in other words, ran water from the pillars of Caesarea. Okay, the Rabbi Yossi, when Rabbi Yossi died, shafu mirzave de tzipore dama, that the gutters of the city of Tsephorus flowed with blood. The Rabbi Yaakov, when Rabbi Yaakov died, at chamayu kochvei biyamama, that the stars appeared visible, okay, during the day. Okay, the Rabbi Asi, then when he died, akru kol ilane, all of the trees became uprooted. The Rabbi Chia, when Rabbi Chia died, nechetu kafe de nora merkia, that their stones of fire
A volcano went off.
could be, okay, came from heaven. The Rabbi Menachem, okay, when Rabbi Menachem Rabbi Yossi died, Ishtau, right? Istamu, Salmania, Vahavu, the Machletzia. Okay, that what happened? Statues were smooth, like a smoothing trowel was rubbed against them.
The images on coins all flattened out.
Well, I don't know that. I didn't have that. Is that what Art Scroll suggests?
This is graven images of idols and those on coins.
Okay, well, the source Koren didn't bring that coin aspect. The Rabbi Tanchum Bar Chia, when he died, it katsatsu ko andartaya, that all of the statues of persons became mutilated. The Rebbe Elisham, Ichtaru Shaba'ayin Machtarta Benahadeya, that there were 70 tunnels dug by robbers in the city of Nahadia, because when he lived, they had never had robberies. The Rab Himnuna, when he died, Nachitu Kefe Debarda Markia, that there were hailstones that fell from heaven. The Rabba Varav Yosef, when the two of them died, Nashuk Kife de Prat Hadade, that the bridges collapsed and touched each other over the Euphrates. The Abai Varava, when they died, Nashuk Kife de Diglat Hadade, that when Abai and Rava died, the bridges over the Tigris collapsed and touched each other. Kinach nafshe de Rabbi Mesharshia, and when the soul of Rabbi Mesharshia passed away, ta'un dikla shitse, that the palm trees grew thorns. All right, and that's where we're going to stop for today. Okay, and we'll pick up tomorrow. Okay. All right.
Try to solidify it.
What? It was Nasim, not Nashim. That we should put our days like nights because he turned his nights into days.
Oh, Nasim, yeah,
Yeah, it's not Nashim.
right. No, I was thinking Nasim was early.
I
Okay.
understand the morning women, but no, it was.
That they should change the same way he changed his nights into days. They
Now
should
it's, the whole theme is it's now dark. That the world is dark by his loss. So that's why open up the sunset at midday. It was so dark we saw stars. You know, and they're all similes where the world is now dark because the light of
Take care, Rabbi.